Hi, this is Steve with MiracleComics.com. Um, just wanted to let you know we're going to walk through some Bronze Age books today. Before doing that, I want to announce my weekly auctions. You can see them in the notes below. Ending this Sunday, May 3rd. Selection of CGC books, and also have some action figures this week as well, graded ones. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm trying to build the channel up. So let's get going. So what I thought I would do today is basically give a beginner's guide to collecting Bronze Age comics using an example of a series of books within House of Secrets. House of Secrets was a real iconic Bronze Age horror book in the 70s in particular, and then the late 60s as well. Had a lot of great artists come through there. Before, like issues 1 through 80 were more one-off books, and they had this funny superhero slash supervillain named Eclipso that took over a number of issues as well. But number 81 is when they switched over to horror, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and what the switching over to horror meant for a lot of books in the 1970s and late 60s. So basically, in the 1950s, there was something called the Seduction of the Innocent book that came out that led to Senate hearings that trying to make awareness that comic books were too violent for children. And they definitely had a point. If you've seen a lot of Golden Age horror books, some of them were very violent and very graphic. So what came of that was something called the Comics Code Authority that basically gave a stamp of approval on what comics were appropriate moving forward from there. And so it was very strict at the time. I don't think they allowed any monsters, vampires, any of that sort of horror genre, even though that genre itself was not in and of itself necessarily bad. But it's just that it wasn't until roughly 1970 that the Comics Code Authority relaxed some of its rules, and Marvel and DC in particular could start producing horror books. A lot of them were, books like Tomb of Dracula, Werewolf by Night. Those were some of the sort of anti-hero books. And then DC produced a lot of anthology sort of books like House of Secrets, House of Mystery, Secrets of Sinister House, and, a lot of just really awesome stuff. So, a lot of the key trends were supernatural anti-heroes, and a lot of the art was really great at the time. It sort of, I wouldn't say that the art of the Silver Age flattened out, but I think what ended up happening, because, Jack Kirby was really at his prime during, in the 60s, but I think that what ended up happening is that some new faces came on board, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, that their style just created something that was different than what Steranko was doing, what Kirby was doing, and it had its own flavor to it. So so I'm gonna show some books and talk about the artist. And what's great about this is that these three artists that I'm going to talk about really were kind of the three pinnacle artists of the Bronze Age, especially in the DC titles. So let me get into it. So the first artist is Neal Adams, and this is a cover to House of Secrets number 90. This is about a fine, very fine copy. Very nice. Neal Adams was a pivotal figure shaping more of the darker tones of the Bronze Age. And he was known for kind of a very realistic and dramatic style to his books, especially, I think most people know him most by his work on Batman, and then eventually his work on Green Lantern. But he also did a number of horror related books too. So especially the covers. So that was cover for that was number 90. And we'll show another Neal Adams book now. This is number 91. This is also a fine, really nice copy. Has this kind of an eagle, jumping into the window here with this woman running. I like the color tones of this. Another key, another key element of the Bronze Age is kind of sort of the monotone, subtle look and feel, almost duotone color style. So I would get into 92, except I don't have a copy of 92, which is, as you know, the first appearance of Swamp Thing, which was probably the pinnacle Bronze Age horror book of the time. It was drawn by Bernie Wrightson. And Bernie was known for his intricate pen and ink style and his detail work. He helped revive the supernatural themes as the industry was loosening its restrictions on the Comics Code Authority. He worked with Lee Wen on the co-creation of Swamp Thing, and he created this sort of epic tragedy, monster fiction. And if you haven't read the Swamp Thing series from the 1970s, it is just by far probably one of the best pieces of comic work that, in my opinion, is out there. Bernie Wrightson is one of my favorite artists, so I just have to say that. So 93, I'm going to jump to there because I don't have a copy of 92. So 93 has this picture of this person that's in like a wrapped in something, kind of like a clown or even a scarecrow, and says something about like the witch's son, I think. The witch's son. You can tell Bernie's work, very fluid. So that was 93. So 94. This is about a fine copy. So a copy like this in fine. So the guide in fine on this is probably about $25, but a tightly graded fine copy of this, I think, would sell more in the $60 to $70 range. They really command double and sometimes triple guide some of these Bronze Age horror books. What else? So we're on to 95 is an unknown artist. My guess on this was it was Nestor Redondo, who is another great Swamp Thing artist that took over from Bernie Wrightson. But I don't know who this is. If you know, maybe you can leave a comment. Number 96 is Bernie Wrightson. This is a classic cover. It's great. This little boy and then this monster coming out of the wall. Number 98. This is an artist named Michael Kaluta, who was famous for the series The Shadow that was out in the 1970s. And he also did quite a number of horror books as well. He did some stuff for Conan as well. His work was kind of more pop illustration and Art Nouveau. He had a very decorative style to his artwork, and you can kind of tell even by his signature, it's just much more curly, and so this is one of his. This is about a VF copy. And then finally, I have Bernie Wrightson. This is issue number 100. It's about a fine, very fine. Got this kind of monster, big guy being attacked by these ghouls. Bernie had this way of drawing figures that was really interesting. They were almost cartoonish, but they were monolithic at the same time. And as a bonus, I'm going to try to hold this up, but I have a sketch that I bought off eBay of Bernie Wrightson that is in my personal collection. Can you see that? It's this is the oh, forgetting now, the Black Lagoon, creature from the Black Lagoon. Anyway, you can see his pen and ink kind of this is in pencil, but you can kind of see that intricate style that we talked about. That's fun. Thanks for listening. That was a long one. Please like and subscribe if you've listened to this whole thing, and see you next time.